Video game companies like to show off the best version of their games pre-launch in order to sell the most amount of copies. That's what usually happens, but Cyberpunk developers CD Projekt Red might be taking a different approach, and here to discuss it with me is Mr. Henry Cooper. How are you doing, sir?
I'm good, looking forward to diving into some Cyberpunk stuff.
Well, we're highly anticipating Cyberpunk now. It's a few months away, it's closer than ever, and taste it, it's on the tip of my tongue. Today we're going to be discussing something very specific. So this comes from a Digital Foundry video which was published yesterday, and in it Alex Battaglia and John Linneman were discussing the hour-long demo of Cyberpunk which they saw at Gamescom this year, and they were comparing it with the footage that was just released to YouTube, which is the Cyberpunk 2077 deep dive video, and they were comparing the differences. Now what they said was the gameplay video that they saw at Gamescom was being played real time with a controller. Somebody was playing it, they were sat there watching it on a huge 150-inch screen or something it was, running at 4K resolution, 30 FPS, and apparently it was running on RTX 2080 Ti. And for those of you who don't know your tech, that is a very nice graphics card. So
it's a hefty bit of kit.
it's a good bit of kit. So they were showing it off in high graphical fidelity, a beautiful version of the game over in Gamescom, but the footage or the gameplay video, deep dive video that they're showing off to YouTube a few days ago, the 14-minute one, the most recent one, is nothing like that. Apparently it runs at it's not even 4K, it's run at 1080p, and I'll read out some of the quotes of what Digital Foundry said. It does not look like the demo we saw, not as crisp or clean and as detailed as the demo that we saw. With the chromatic aberration, with the motion blur, temporal AA, and all the other things, a lot of the surface details completely drowned out. I was amazed at the texture detail throughout the entire video. Here in this video, where it's really hard to see much of any detail in any of the textures. The game does look decidedly better than they're oddly enough showing here. This 14-minute video unfortunately is not the best way to showcase the game's graphics. What we saw in person live at 4K was astounding looking.
Quite frankly, I am astounded.
So this raises the question, they've got the game running more beautifully than it actually is, but they're not showing it like that.
Yeah, they're hiding something, which is a really interesting question.
Well, that's one way to put it, hiding it.
Yeah.
What do you think they're hiding?
Are they preempting a potential backlash from people? Because everyone knows talk of downgrades happens all the time, and CDPR have first-hand experience of it with their biggest hit, The Witcher 3, which a lot of people criticized at the time for being downgraded despite being, one of the most successful games of all time.
Well, this was back in 2015. I mean, that's relating to a 2 years earlier, I think, at the VGX Game Awards show. They showed off really stunning visuals on that video, and then when the game released, it was specifically noted that on the PC version, the hardware would allow them to run what it looked like on the VGX Game Show Awards, but the game itself wouldn't run like that. It wasn't as beautiful. Yeah. And they were subject to a lot of backlash because of that. And Eurogamer interviewed some key members of CDPR at the time. Co-founder Martin Nowinski was quoted as saying, "If the consoles were not involved, there is no Witcher 3 as it is. We just cannot afford it." So developing for all the different all the different platforms, as challenging as it is, they focused on the consoles because it's the larger part of the consumer base. The PC game suffered for it, and they didn't focus on it as much as they would. They have subsequently beautified the game in post-launch patches, so it does look a lot better now on PC. But this was a compromise that they decided to make.
A bit of a catch-22, because in order to be able to fund this game being made, we need to be able to put it on consoles where the majority of casual players will be playing, so we can get more money for it. But the problem with doing that is that they can't run the visuals that we could potentially do if we stuck with just PC.
Yeah, so I haven't had that experience of being accused of graphical downgrade and coming out and saying, yeah, we actually had to downgrade it because of the tech, whatever. They're trying to maybe preempt it, and maybe that's what they're trying to do now. Graphical downgrading is one of the biggest anti-consumer things, in my opinion, in the industry right now, along with loot boxes and, being sold something, being shown something. It's like they show you a Ferrari in the trailer, and then when you get in it, it drives like a Skoda. Yeah. Because it just won't go like that. It's a mis-selling a game. With that in mind, and trying to avoid that type of controversy, is that why they've chosen now to only show this gameplay off in 1080p? And in fact, at some points, Digital Foundry said that this gameplay this year is not as good as the gameplay which was shown last year. Do you think that's maybe why they're not showing off the best gameplay? Because they know that so many people are going to be playing it on consoles, and those consoles are just limited hardware wise that they're just not going to achieve what they could possibly show.
Yeah, I think that's probably the case, and they must have thought, oh wow, this looks really good, in last year's gameplay demo, but then as things have got better and they've continued development, things have got even better, and it's like, there's no way we can achieve this on consoles. Kind of like, oh shit, what are we going to do? Okay, we'll show them the, not necessarily scaled down, but the less ambitious...
A middling version, right?
The console version, or on lower end PC hardware. And really, no one's saying what we saw looks bad at all. Like, we wouldn't be having this conversation if Digital Foundry didn't come out and say, essentially, you think this looks good, we saw something that's even better.
Yeah, that's a notable point in itself. You look at the comments on the YouTube video, which is amassed around over 3 million views now. I haven't seen anyone who's complained at the visuals of the game, that the textures don't look good, that there's motion blur, whatever. I mean, you can see it when Digital Foundry point it out in a video, because they're the guys with the eyes for that.
Yeah, they've got the magnifying glass right there, pixel counting every single frame.
But nobody else gives a fuck. Is that indicative of how the industry is just focusing on and just putting too much emphasis on graphics and like 4K and looking beautiful?
I mean, maybe.
Whereas it doesn't really matter to the majority of us, right?
I mean, for those people who are into it, like the folks over at Digital Foundry, more power to you, because it is a tech industry. That sort of stuff is important, but the extent to which it is important to you obviously varies person to person. I don't really care. Like, it looks good. That's all I need to say. Yeah. Good. Can't tell you why it looks good. Can't give you pixel counts. Can't even really give you a frame rate. So I could probably give it a guess, but even then, it's not very specific. But as long as it runs and is stable, I'm happy.
Yeah. In this day and age, though, with YouTube as it is, and the communities being as they are, any point of contention, any little controversy can be gotten hold of, blown up out of proportion. And you think about these YouTubers who do comparison videos, like pre-release trailer footage versus actual real. Yeah. Like we've all seen them, right? We've seen them all compared. And with that hyper scrutiny, I can't think of the term, but it's like it is hyper scrutiny, right? Yeah. The hyper scrutinizing. That's the term now. The hyper scrutinizing this footage, opening up the potential for this controversy, then you can see why Cyberpunk CD Projekt Red are kind of maybe preempting that and showing off a middling version to set the bar of expectation pretty low, so that when the final gameplay comes out and they see it on a high-end PC, people are maybe blown away by what they've achieved versus what they're showing off now.
And that's not to demonize any of these comparison channels by any means, because I think it's really interesting to see when you look at a bad offender like Anthem, whose pre-release material is wildly different to what we actually got. They're doing good stuff because they will go into the high detail, but on the flip side, you do get almost the boy who cried wolf situations with
Puddlegate.
With Puddlegate, you know where I was going. I love talking about Puddlegate.
Oh wow. So what was Puddlegate?
Spider-Man PS4, very successful game, lots of people enjoyed it. In one trailer there was a puddle in one place, in the next trailer showing the same area, same thing, it wasn't there.
But it wasn't as shiny, damn it.
And people got very, very upset. The community director, James Stevenson, came out at the time and said on Twitter, it's not a downgrade, the sun just moved.
That's a faithful defense if ever I heard one.
I love it so much. Puddlegate is brilliant.
Yeah, the sun moved. It wasn't a great response, and that kind of sparked it kind of added fuel to the fire, you could say. But the accusations were finally debunked by Digital Foundry themselves. Yep. Like I said, they are the tech gurus, and they finally analysed it and concluded that it wasn't actual an upgrade. It's just a different kind of lighting. The lighting is different. Choice
and everything, and the way they altered the textures on his suit to make it look less kind of wet and shiny and gave it a bit more of a matte finish.
And that just is indicative of how the community and the YouTubers or whatever are hyper scrutinizing the footage and stuff for a good reason, because we want to make sure that they're honest, that they're not mis-selling these products, because like you said at the very beginning of this video, it's one of the biggest problems in the industry. It's an important role that they play when they analyze this footage, but it is indicative of how people can maybe jump to the wrong conclusions based on their own like they're not experts like Digital Foundry. They say, oh, the puddle moved, they jump to a conclusion, they're just downgrading it, they're trying to mis-sell us, whereas in fact it's not. So it's important to make sure you look at the evidence very carefully and take somebody, an expert's opinion rather than just use your own eyes, because maybe you're not the expert.
Yeah, and we've got to try and hold off on saying anything as a downgrade until the game actually comes out. Put away your toxic entitled gamer membership badge if you're going to go screaming that shit. Just for now. It can come out, and if it's justified, it's not toxic, so it's fine.
So this brings me to CD Projekt Red and the fact that the way that they do, obviously they've got this in mind that people do jump to wrong conclusions maybe, and there might be some controversy if it is seen that the game has been downgraded or whatever. And specifically, in order to avoid that, in all of their gameplay so far, they've included a watermark which in the most recent video says, "Work in progress does not represent the final look of the game." Also in the video description it says, "This video contains work in progress gameplay. Everything you see is potentially subject to change."
Yeah.
That is more than most people say, right? Most people don't say anything about the state of the game that it's in. Whether they just show, like Anthem for example, they just show the shiniest, best graphical version of it, and then at the end of it people get pissed off when they see the actual game, and they don't see that that's the problem, because it's EA and they just blink it. They just don't care what the community thinks, so they're just not in tune with the community the way that CD Projekt are. And I've always been impressed with CDPR at how they are in tune with the communities like this.
And stuff like this work in progress tag being constant throughout the whole thing is so much better than a vaguely ambiguous in-engine footage versus in-gameplay footage, because a lot of people don't understand that there is a difference between those things.
True.
And these companies know that, and they're trying to coast by on it.
Wouldn't it be better to just disclose exactly what hardware that the gameplay you're watching is running on? Like maybe even the description of the video, because you couldn't take up half the screen with all the text specs.
Yeah, all these numbers and frame counts and everything.
But wouldn't that make the comparison videos post-release make them all defunct? Because if they're showing off gameplay video now, for example, it might be on a 1070 or something running on a middling processor. That type of ballpark hardware that they're showing or that they're running this gameplay on, if they disclose that fully and then post-launch these comparison videos came out and they compared it to like a PS4 or whatever, it would be totally useless, because you know exactly what hardware that these trailers or gameplay videos were running on, so you wouldn't even bother comparing it with a PS4 version. So wouldn't it be better all round if they were just like even more honest than they are, and just disclosed all of that?
I think that would be the ideal situation, as you say, just a little bit in the description, being a little bit, here's your tech,
running on this exact tech,
because then it's there if you want to go looking for it. It's not going to get in the way of your actual promotion.
I would love like 3 different versions of the demo. One running on a base PS4 showing exactly the same thing. One running on a middling PC. One running on the highest end PC. So you can actually see. I know it'd be a lot of work because it's an unrealistic expectation because there's so much work goes into just one video. Never mind the 3 videos. But it would be nice to see that so you could compare. But anyway, for those of you thinking that the whole thing is going to be downgraded or the whole game might come out downgraded now versus what happened at E3, hold your horses, because Digital Foundry said that some of the footage we saw recently has been upgraded.
Upgrades.
Since the E3 demo, and specifically the lighting. In the E3 demo a year ago, there was no screen space reflections. That's a technical term which I have just learned. But there are screen space reflections in this game. So basically puddles and metal reflections and stuff like that. It all looks shinier now and it all looks better. And you can see that, the neon imagery and stuff like that. You can see how really nice it looks. And a game can look beautiful just from the lighting alone. I mean, the graphics are not as important as lighting. I think that's what Detroit Become Human David Cage dude said recently. The lighting's a lot better. I can't remember exactly what he said, but lighting's a lot more important than actual
lighting
resolution.
Is everything. I love a game with good lighting.
So if you think that this gameplay demo didn't look too bad, it's probably because the lighting looked awesome. And considering specifically there's no ray tracing in this demo either, so that's not even in there yet. So
everyone's favorite buzzword to get the nipples hard.
Ray tracings are to come. If you do own a high-end PC and you did think that this didn't look that good, this is only running in 1080p. Ray tracing is to come. Probably on top of that, we don't know for sure, but you can probably assume it with the recent Control coming out recently, and that's got so many ray tracing options and stuff, and it looks set the bar in terms of ray tracing. The game will likely run a lot better and look a lot better than it does in this demo if you're running it on a PC. However, if you're running it on a PS4, and maybe don't judge your conclusions. So there you have it. Once again, CDPR are taking a different approach to the games industry and the releasing of their games. Do you think this is the way to go? Is there a better way to show off your games pre-release to try to avoid a downgrade? If you've got any ideas or comments of your own, leave them down in the comments section below. If you like the video, hit the thumbs up button to support the channel, leave a comment, and hit the subscribe and the bell if you want to be notified when we release our future videos. If you want to support us over on patreon.com/precodegaming, you can do. On behalf of Henry and myself, we will see you again next time. Bye for now.